All right, fellas, welcome back to the channel. I am Bradley Hallman. It has been a while since we visited. We're on the shores of Santee Cooper. I'm gonna go back, retake, do a little fill in for my last event at Lake Murray since it's been a while. We're gonna go over that. It was one of those events. You guys been following my channel for a while, realize that ain't every day I catch them. So it is a struggle bus. It has been an up and down, and I had 2 days of it. And it was pretty aggravating, but hang on to this video because you're gonna see some stuff. And honestly, you guys, especially you guys on the herring lakes, leave some suggestions down below because I'm gonna show you 2 hours of starting on the mother load and I can't catch them and you're gonna see it. So watch this, leave some comments below, give me some ideas because I feel like I'm pretty good at the herring fishing thing and I did not have a good week at Lake Murray. They blasted them. They were absolutely everywhere. Sight fishing and point fishing, 2 of my favorite things, and I didn't catch them. Let's start off with day 1. 2 hours of sitting on them, schooling, and I can't catch them. I found 4 or 5 points that had schools of fish on them. I mean, literally feeding fish. And generally speaking, a lot of the points that you find on blueback herring lakes, if they're showing themselves, and what I mean by that is they're surfacing at the top. Schools of fish, you know, 4, 5, 6 of them breaking, sometimes 10 to 20 of them breaking at the surface. If they do it continually, it's not a good deal because a lot of people find them. I would rather have fish that you kind of have to call up with the top water or something like that to get them to feed or react so that other people don't find them. But this point in particular had multiple schools on it, one towards the tip, one more on the side, and they fed all day long. And it seemed like the more the sun got up, the better they got. But the problem with this point was I didn't think I was ever gonna get on it. But I drew out boat number 2. So how great can it be? Like, I'm probably getting on this point. I've got a fast Phoenix. I'm gonna get there. So I'm probably gonna get first shot on this place, and I do. The problem that I run into and that you're seeing in front of me is that they are blowing up everywhere and they are not eating the traditional top waters, sabills, flukes. Guys, it gets to a point where I'm here for 2 hours and I am throwing everything in my boat. I catch 1 bass here in 2 hours, and it's not a very big one, and it's on a drop shot. Now, this ends up being a telltale sign for later on, but still, this event is still caught, dominated, guys in the top 10, throwing the big pencil poppers, throwing the spooks, throwing top waters. I never weigh in a fish for 2 days on top water, and I approach every point with it. This one I camped out on because it was kind of a camping type tournament where I don't have 50 really good spots or 80 really good spots on Murray. I've got 10 or 12 that I feel pretty good about. There's boats on all of them. I'm gonna have to take a turn, but I'm willing to roll any point with top water and make 10 or 15 casts and move on to the next. I can pull up my trolling motor and fish 80 points a day just like anybody else. But I have not had very much success doing this. So I'm wanting to sit on this school of fish and catch a group of fish. Can't do it. So any of you guys watching this and you're seeing all this surfacing going on over and over and you're seeing me change baits, dude, I am literally digging in the back of my boat through boxes, tying on baits, anything I can possibly think of. I'm literally opening tackle boxes and just looking through there at what might work. I mean, it was that aggravating. Now, later in this video, we're going to get to probably what might have worked, but it took me 2 days and it took me 2 full days of tournament fishing to figure out a couple things that they might have eaten. Historically now, like I said, I'm a little older. The drop shot did play pretty good. Now, I'm talking years ago, and I still think it works. I'm not saying it doesn't, but it's not as powerful as it was before those fish had seen it. And I'm talking back in the mid-2000s, like they would eat it. They hadn't seen it. They've seen that little red worm a bunch now. So they're a little bit skittish of it. Once I get done with these fish, I've spent 2 hours on these suckers. There's a lot of fish on the beds. I've got some marked. It's time to go to work sight fishing. So that's where we're headed. One of the things that I noticed, that I felt like I noticed was that there was a lot of fish on the beds, but a lot of the better fish that I saw seemed to be more just right inside of pockets, right on the main lake, not all the way to the back of the back of the back. I spent so much time on points and trying to find points, I spent not as much time looking. And historically, when I'm looking, I like to probably spend the majority of my time, if I know I'm going to sight fish, the majority of my time doing it. You can't catch the biggest fish in the lake if you haven't seen most of the lake. A lake the size of Murray, you're not going to see it all even in 3 days of practice. But I still like to spend a lot of my time with my trolling motor on high and look at a lot of bank. I did find a couple of really big ones. One in particular that was deep, hard to see. I made a bad calculation on this one. She bit first cast. She was easy to get to bite. She was deep, she was hard to see, and I didn't think anybody would find her because she was sitting out on the main lake. It wasn't a place that most people would be looking. And I didn't go to her till 1 o'clock and she was gone. But I decided to start right here in this pocket where I started on this point. I had some bed fish in there as well. One of the other problems that I have is I don't have any notes as far as what size or what. I just have waypoints of better fish that I marked as I went through. So I'm rolling up to waypoints and I'm not real sure if it's a pair, if it's a 3-pounder, if it's a 4-pounder, if it's by itself, if it's paired up. I don't really know. And so I'm kind of having to go through this process. And on this first fish that I catch, this first sight fish, it's probably about 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning. I've only got one fish, and I've got, since I was boat 2, I've got an early weigh-in. So I gotta get on the stick. I let the better of it get to me. I fished for this fish for about 30 minutes. The female is not, it's gonna take a little bit longer. And I end up saying, hell with it. I'm just gonna catch the male. He's a 3.5 pounder, and he is. And I'm gonna roll with my day because I don't know what else I've got in store. So then I start rolling waypoints. Some of my waypoints have nothing at all on them. There's nothing there. Whether they've been caught, whether they weren't pegged down real well, because like I told you in practice, I spent so much time on the points. When I finally went to sight fishing, I'm just rolling. This kind of carries out throughout my day, and you know, it's bed fish. Some of it goes good. I did slow down and spend some time on one female, get her to bite as opposed to the male, but she's not that big. She's about a 2.5 pounder, and that's pretty much what you're seeing and where I'm at. day one, and I've got about 15, 20 minutes to fish. And I'm right on the backside of takeoff, on the backside of the off limits, right outside of it. I fish some docks and stuff. I don't get any bites. It gets down. I just turn my trolling motor on high, start looking, and I find one. It's about a 2.5 pounder, decent little male by itself, very aggressive, ready to roll. And I've got 4 in a boat. I need number 5. And this little dude, it wasn't his fault. It was the clock's fault. I am literally looking at my clock and I've got 7 minutes from the time that I see him to the time that I have to leave. I mean, I have to leave or I'm gonna be late. I start working on him. And I put the heat on him fast. And I'm going and I'm going and I'm going, and he's way out there on the bed, and then he's a little closer, and he's a little closer. With about 3 minutes left, I've got him right on top of his spot. He's just spinning. I mean, he'll turn on a dime, which if you haven't done much sight fishing, he's mad and he's about to bite. I look at my clock and I've got 1 minute and 30 seconds. And every flip I shake and he's just yeet, 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 yeet. I'm flipping, I'm shaking. I'm like, God, I've got to have this bass. I mean, this fish, I figure I've got about 12 pounds with 4. I've got to have this sucker. And you know, 2.5 pounder gives me about 15.5 pounds, which I think in my mind is going to be about where the 50 cut is. And he's spinning, I don't know, I'm down to 30 seconds. The 30 seconds goes, he's spinning, you know, I mean, he's just open your mouth and bite it. 30 seconds goes and I'm like, heck with it, another minute, like 60 seconds. So I'm back in there, and he's spinning. Man, I'm not 3 to 5, 6 minutes away from catching this fish, and my clock just runs out. I mean, I pushed it an extra 60 seconds. I have to leave or I'm gonna be late. And I started even doing the math in my head. For every minute you're late, it's a pound penalty. He's a 2.5 pounder. Like, even if you're a minute late, it's a pound. If you're 2 minutes late, maybe he's a 2.5, you get an extra half. I don't know. But I'm doing this math and I'm like, I have got to go. So I pull up my trolling motor, I idle in, and I've got 30 seconds. And I go to weigh in, and they absolutely crushed them. We're on Lake Murray. It's as good as it's probably ever been. It's a phenomenal fishery. It's loaded with them right now. And I got 12 pounds with 4 fish.
Two-time qualifier for the back.
So day 2. My game plan is pretty much bump a couple of points in the first hour, there by takeoff, where I know where a couple more schools of fish are. Now, I'm obviously next to the last boat out on day 2, so I know most of them are going to be covered up. And sure enough, I start running somewhere I know some schools of fish are, and there's boats on the first 4 or 5 points that I pass. No big deal. I find one, no boats on. I pull in there, fish around a little bit. They do come up schooling. Same thing as the day before. I can't get them to bite. Sight fishing is where I'm headed. It's like, I don't have anything left from yesterday. I do know where a couple of good ones are that I wasn't able to get the coax into biting. I'm going to start on those 2 in the morning while the sun's low, because I do know where they are, and I kind of want to mess with them first thing in the morning. One of them is gone. The other one is just completely too finicky, just like she was the day before. I can't get her to go. I think maybe after the sun gets up or something, the weather or the water warms up a little bit, maybe she'll become a little bit more aggressive, but I've got to move on. So I decide to go to the south end of the lake where I haven't spent a lot of time and just look in places that I haven't looked. I want fresh water. Trolling motor on high, just looking for bedfish. I do this up through the morning, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. I find a couple of good fish, turn around, spin on them. They are not ready at all. Females won't really stay put. Male really won't stay put. I can't even pick on him too much. Nobody's really committed to the job. So I keep rolling. I decided to go in this one pocket. It's a big pocket. I'm gonna roll the whole thing. It's got a north-south facing bank, so a north bank. I got the sun on it good, I can see, and I literally rolled for 3/4, I don't know, 2 miles. I roll a long ways. Man, I saw 2 fish, and I was like, oh, that was tough. I look at my clock and it's 11 o'clock. Now I've got a late weigh in. I'm an hour and a half later than I was the day before. I'm not doing until 4:30, but I've only got 1 little rat. So kind of in the situation I was in the day before. And I think, man, those points just keep getting better and better. Like if I'm going to make this up, I've got to make it on those points and I've got to figure out how to catch them. So I've got this one point on an island that I know there's some fish on and they hadn't been beat up by a million boats. Now there's been some locals in through there, but I haven't seen a competitor on it. So I decided to run there. By this point, man, I have just spun my wheels with everything I can possibly think of. And I'm digging my box. Well, first I pull up and I throw top water. They don't bite. I haven't been there 5 minutes. They blow up on the point. Typical what's been going on. Can't get one of them to bite. Reach in my box, start looking, and I pull out my Ned rig box. And I pull out a 6-inch TRD, the big worm, the bigger Ned. I put it on a 1/10 head, real light, 10-pound test line, spinning rod. I figure, what the heck. I fire it up on that point, and I'm dragging it real slow. Don't. Put that fish in the boat, I got 2. Fire back up on that point, don't. Hook it, miss 1. Rig my stuff back up, fire it back up there, don't. 3-pounder. Now we're talking, now we got 3. Now you would think at this point he'd be like, hey, Hallman, sit on this point. You know there's a bunch of them. As I roll around the end of it, it's kind of deep out there on the end and there's 2 big rocks. I say it's deep, it's like 4 or 5 foot, sight fishing deep. And I see one and I'm like, whoo, that's a good one. At first I think it's a spawner because she's sitting between 2 boulders and she's a 4 or 5 pounder and she's sitting right like she's sitting on a bed. And as I start to look at her, because the wind's not blowing very hard, I'm gazing and the sun's just right because it's about 1 o'clock, noon, and I can see deep. And I flip at her, and as I flip at her, I see 2 or 3 other fish start swimming, which could be bed, but I start looking at them and they look like the Walking Dead zombies, just like those other fish on those points look when they're not up on the point feeding. And I'm like, oh my God, there's a school over on this side too. The thing is they're all good ones. Every fish I'm looking at, I see a couple more on this side then, and then I see a couple more. There's a bunch right here. But the ones I was catching are on the other side of the point. So there's 2 groups of fish here. Do I stay? No. I decide to leave like an idiot. I fish around there for another 30 minutes or 45 minutes, I don't get bit. I know where another little group of fish is. There's nobody on it, I can actually see it. I run over there to fish it. I run over there and fish it. Same thing, there's zombies, I can see them, I can't get one to bite. Go back to that point. Run back to the point, there's a boat there, but it's a local boat. So I asked the gentleman, there was 2 guys, older gentlemen in the boat, I said, hey, you guys mind if I come in and fish the point with you, or would you like for me to go somewhere else? They said, oh no, come on in with us. So I came in, they gave me about 10 feet out of kind South Carolina courtesy. They gave me about 10 foot there and we fished together. I catch another one.
I'm telling
I've got 4. A little while later, I catch another one. This is another good one, another 3.5 pounder. One thing that I kind of start seeing here is like the fish when they're on the point. Now, you guys in herring lakes with South Carolina especially can leave some comments for me on this. They're real shallow, so like you see them on the side, but when I say on the side, man, I'm only talking like 2.5 foot deep. And I mean, there's 30 or 40 of them. You can see them, just green zombies, just, you know, doing their little deal, and they're not sitting still, they're swimming. But you don't get bit there. I only get bit up on top where it's real shallow, where they bust, where you see them bust. That's where I get bit on the nip, but I don't get bit up there with top water or a swim bait or a fluke or burning a fluke. And don't get on here and go, well, you weren't reading it. Dude, I'm talking about 8 to 1 fluke as fast as you freaking go. I can't catch one. Throw that net up there as slow as you can go. And I think what's happening is those fish, those zombies are swimming up there where they feed, and they'll bite if they see it move. Now, if you cast up there, they don't ever bite just as soon as it casts and hits the water. They don't do that. But if I fire where they're sitting, where the zombies are, I never get bit over there. Ever, 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 ever. I only get bit where they blow up, where they feed. So I start really paying attention to this. I only fire to where they feed. I don't catch any more fish. I still got about 2.5 hours. You would think I would stay put, but I don't. I leave. I'll even go try to run 5 or 6 other points that I know have got fish on them. All 5 or 6 have boats on them. So now it's obvious to me at this point that like everybody's doing the same thing that I'm doing. Or, you know, they're having to catch them fishing slow, and so they're camping on these points. They're not bouncing points like typical herring fishing. And like I say, I'm not a local, so I don't have 80 of them that I can just go hit randomly. If there's boats on 5, I skip 5 and hit the 6th one. So I run over to the other side where I know there's some bedfish and I can see that point. I mess with a couple of the bedfish and I'm just waiting for that guy to leave. If he does leave, about 20 minutes into it, he does leave. I get back over there and I've got about an hour and a half, 2 hours to fish. I've got 5, but I need some good bites. Man, the second I pull up there, fire that shaky head up there, best bite I get of the day. 485, big one, almost 5 pounder. Big one, big one. Stay hooked up. Come here, come here. Oh my gosh, how did I miss that? Come here. Oh my gosh, this fish comes off.
Let's go.
Let's go.
That's a good one there.
Yeah. Oh, 4 pounder. So I know this bumps me up. I'm looking at my scales. I got 16 and I'm sitting there thinking, you dummy, you could just sit here on this point and caught 20 pounds because I know what's swimming over there and I know what's swimming right here. You could just stay put, drop shot, shaky head. And then I even put, so it's not like I sit here on this point for the next 2 hours and all I throw is a shaky head. Like I put the swim bait up there. I put the top waters up there. I put the square bill up there. I could put everything up there I could possibly think of, then go back to the shaky head, and I never get another bite the rest of the day. I don't even have that much better of a day, but I do have a better day, and I catch them all off of 1 point, and it's aggravating. That was pretty much my week at Lake Murray, and it was not what I wanted. I love that place. I love herring fishing, and man, I had a bad one. Right on the shores of Santee Cooper. I've got some fond memories of this place. I'm looking forward to it. Going to be some more sight fishing here, along with some frogging and flipping and chatterbait and spinnerbait and swim jigging. So it's going to be southern style fishing, and I'm really looking forward to it as much as possible. So everybody, don't forget, bump that like, hit that subscribe. Really appreciate everyone of y'all being here. I told you from the beginning, I ain't Kevin Van Dam. We ain't gonna come out here and just slam every single day. I'm gonna have some ups and I'm gonna have some downs. We've been through some downs, it's time for some ups. And sometimes when the sun shines, it shines really bright around here. So let's see what happens this week. Appreciate every one of y'all being here. See you next time. I'm out of here. Bye.